All right, let's jump in. Because every time we talk about caregiving, people picture this brave, noble saint of a person. And mate, that's just a slice of reality. The numbers are pretty heavy. I mean, studies show around 40 to 70% of caregivers, especially family carers, hit a wall with depression at some point. And over 20% report their physical health as fair or, what's the polite way, just plain lousy. I'm getting the stats right, yeah?
Yeah, that tracks. It's not just numbers either. I've seen it up close. My mum, when she was caring for Sam and Tash, there were days she'd just stand in the kitchen, staring off. You could almost see the exhaustion, that loss of herself. Like outside mum, there just wasn't much room for anyone else, you know? It gets isolating. Whole weekends would go by where she hadn't spoken to anyone but us.
You're describing my Tuesday, Ruby. But seriously, it's wild how easy it is to miss the signs until you're deep in it. For me, it was realizing I hadn't read a book or gone for a run in months, even things I used to swear by to stay sane. You think you're just tired, but it's more than that. David, what about you?
I get tongue-tied on neurodiversity every assembly, but didn't notice I was skipping lunch unless there were leftovers to finish. Weird signals too, like being snappy with my own kids over, I don't know, whose turn it was to empty the dishwasher. Looking back, that was me waving a silent flag for help and flat out ignoring myself.
I'll jump in. Sometimes it's subtle things, like you start saying no to every social invite. At first, it's just practical, but later you realise you haven't seen anyone who isn't related or paid in, half a year? For me, that loneliness creeps up. Then it's that physical ache. You don't notice it until, something gives.
So I think it's easy to brush burnout off as just being tired. But that's like calling the Grand Canyon a divot. When you hit burnout, you get emotional exhaustion, nothing in the tank. There's sleep mess, either not sleeping or sleeping forever. You get cranky, sometimes irrationally so, which feels so unfair to everyone. And it's not about being lazy. Your brain just says, nope.
Exactly. And for me, it looked like blanking on basic tasks. I planned my weeks on this ridiculously color-coded system, just to prove I was holding it together. It helped a bit. Boundaries started with radical stuff, like actually scheduling in me time as fluorescent yellow. If it's not bright, I'll ignore it. And short breaks, even hiding in the stairwell for 3 minutes between calls, saved me sometimes.
I'm guilty of this irrational trade-off thing. Like my sourdough. For 20 minutes at midnight, I'd convince myself baking another loaf would magically restore me. But then, running on empathy fumes most of the day. At some point, you realise hobby time is as essential as air, but you only get there when you're completely running on empty. It's almost funny. Almost.
No, David, I get you. Sometimes reclaiming self-care feels impossible, but the tiniest rituals matter. Setting boundaries, literally turning off your phone at night, or telling your partner you need the living room for a 15-minute YouTube yoga stretch can be revolutionary. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's easier than dealing with full meltdown mode. Let's talk about support, because nobody does this alone, even if it looks that way from the outside. There are actual resources, therapy, peer groups, some pretty brilliant apps, stuff like NAMI, local respite networks, even online groups if meeting up isn't realistic. Out of curiosity, who here actually asked for help early on?
Not me. Embarrassing story. During a city presentation, someone asked about support hotlines, and I just blanked. Couldn't remember a single number. It was mortifying, but folks laughed with me. It helped to show I'm human. Afterwards, 3 people wrote support numbers on my notes. Recovery by crowdsourcing. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Love that, Claudia. I only twigged onto support networks after one of Mum's epic kitchen table check-ins. She'd call everyone to the table, siblings, dad, whoever was around, and say, all right, who's cooked, who's cried, and who's calling grandma this week? We ended up with weekly debriefs. Not formal, just honest. I thought it was only for her, but turns out it helped all of us.
That's proper wisdom. I used to think, right, if I ask for help, I'm admitting defeat. Such nonsense. The first time I joined a support app, I felt so self-conscious, like everyone would know I was not coping. Turns out, half the room said the same thing. Building that support network, normalizing talking about it, honestly takes the edge off. Sometimes it's the laugh or the small nudge you need when you're stuck.
And it's worth adding, this stuff works. Your world gets bigger, problems get lighter, and those embarrassing calls for help, they're gold. It's about finding the courage for those little check-ins. Whether it's a kitchen table, a WhatsApp message, or, remembering the hotline number.
Sometimes the basics make the difference. Movement has honestly been a lifesaver. I mean, short walks, 10-minute stretches, jumping jacks in the hallway while a pot's boiling. It's not about becoming a fitness guru. It's about shifting your energy, boosting your mood. Even tiny bits, sprinkled through long days, game changer.
Absolutely. And not just exercise, mindfulness too. My brain always races, so deep breathing bursts between phone calls work. Or I'll sneak in a 2-minute meditation on the back steps. It's not glamorous, but stacking tiny mindfulness things really adds up, especially if you can't get full-on downtime. It's like finding these little windows of calm.
And the goals don't have to be heroic, right? Some days my win is just texting a mate or sitting outside with a cuppa. If I squeeze in a hobby, like doodling new bread designs, don't laugh, I claim that victory. The little achievements start stacking up, and you realise you're not just surviving, you're still in there somewhere, having mini celebrations.
Yeah, the trick is making it daily, not occasional. Something realistic. Set yourself up for success. 10 minutes of me time rather than, tomorrow I'll run a marathon. We're building up, not burning out. Celebrating the little stuff makes those marathon days possible later.
There's this myth that caregivers need to be ironclad, always available. Absolute nonsense. Creating a flexible routine, carving out protected self-care time, it's not selfish, it's smart. For my family, it's daily walks in the evening, phones off, everyone gets fresh air, and nobody talks about what's for dinner. That's sacred ground.
Scheduling intentional downtime is radical. I started locking my work chats after 8 p.m., and the world didn't end. Those routine check-ins, whether with friends, family, or professionals, they help adjust responsibilities as life shifts. You're not failing if you phone a mate after a rough day, or if your plan changes. Flexibility isn't weakness, it's survival.
I love that, Claudia. In my house, we do Monday resets. Everyone gets to air what's working, or not. Sometimes it's just, hey, can I have 10 minutes to play piano? Or, let's swap chores. Little boundaries, tiny tweaks, making things sustainable. And when we started blocking out do-nothing hours, we all, kids included, were less frantic.
All about consistency over heroics. Routine lets you see trouble coming before you hit the wall. And those boundaries, turning notifications off, stepping outside, whatever works, they're the guardrails. Keeps you on track and gives space for everyone, not just the person receiving care, to actually thrive. So, the heart of all this? Communication. And, if I may say, owning your boundaries. Not just with those you care for, but family, friends, the gaggle of professionals around your life. Speaking up about what you need, not just what they need, is true advocacy. I know, easier said than done.
Oh, totally. I still get wobbly, especially around policy or at hospital meetings. But learning to say, hey, I need quiet time, or that's all I can do today, it's let me keep going. Not a magic fix, but the honesty creates understanding. Family and friends can't help if they don't know what you need, right?
And there's real power in active listening, too. If I actually pause and listen to my kids or my team, like fully listen, I miss fewer cues. There's less stress all around. Empathy. It's a two-way street. Limits on what you can accept are kindness, not rejection, for everyone involved.
Yeah, I always say boundaries are like my sourdough starter. If you don't nurture it, everything falls flat. Don't just set the no-go zones, but check in and adjust them. Admit when you slip up, have that laugh, and try again. Communication dropped my stress more than any fancy self-help trick. Got to keep those conversations rolling.
That's a wrap for today's episode, but honestly, this stuff isn't over when the mics turn off. If you're listening, give yourself credit for the care you give and the courage it takes to ask for care in return. We'll keep digging into more ways to thrive, not just survive, next time. Ruby, Claudia, David, thanks as always.
Thank you, team. So glad we could get real about the messy bits.
Always a pleasure. Take care, everyone. Set those boundaries and see you on the next one.
Cheers all. Remember, you're allowed to take that midnight sourdough break. Talk soon.